Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to Tiki Tuesday Talks, post-Labor Day. Excited to be back with you here. We got a really great session ahead. Let's introduce the crew. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Just introduce yourself and let us know where you're ringing in from.
Hey, it's Steve. Oh, Alex, go ahead.
All right. This is Alex Day, and I'm coming to you from Portland, Maine.
Portland, Maine. My sister's going there soon.
It's a beautiful place. It's going to get cold real soon.
I'm Steve. I'm in Birmingham where it is not cold. So
it was 109 here in Vegas yesterday. So
nope.
Katie. Oh, you're muted.
I'm Katie Best. I'm in Richmond, Virginia, and it is very moderate here. Nice 80.
Straight ahead moderate.
Yeah.
Aaron, you're in the car as usual.
Coming from the balmy Baltimore, Maryland, and it's about 87 here, so it's perfect.
Right on. Right on. Well, let's talk about what we're going to do today. So we are excited to have Alex Day, CEO at the company, author, doer of all things. We're going to talk about finding focus and creativity within limitations. So this is really going to be, in general, the way to think about programs, costing, ideation, et cetera. But then also, we can't ignore it. We're in the middle of a pandemic. So how does it relate with that? Some just housekeeping, chat box and questions. If you guys are on Crowdcast, you can ask your questions. You can do the same via Facebook Live. We'll get them. We'll try and interpret them and get them over to Alex. You can share the event in the top right. Tip jar, Venmo at Alexander-Paul-Day. If you want to support Alex in this time, it's much appreciated. Presentation, 30, 40 minutes. We're going to do a cocktail as usual. And then we've got 5 questions with Katie. So Alex, originally bartender in Death & Co.'s early days. I'm sure you're going to get into that. Became an owner in 2010. You've co-formed various businesses and partnerships with Dave Kaplan and Devon Tarby, including Proprietors LLC, and notable bars such as Nitecap, Honeycut, the Normandie Club, the Walker Inn, Death & Co. Denver, and Los Angeles. You've trained hundreds of bartenders, designed dozens of bars along the way, fallen in love with the process. So we're going to really get nerdy here. Focusing on operations, planning, logistics, process improvement, design, and systems. All the stuff I really, really love. Just kidding. But I'm glad that there are people that do. So without further ado, let's get you on here. Hello, sir.
Awesome. Hello, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, we'll move on to this. Actually, let's swap to your deck. Boom. Look at that.
Awesome. Nice. Nicely done. Great. Well, thanks again for having me. This is, it's funny. Pete and I were talking on the phone a few weeks ago about, what to chat about today. And we just started kind of riffing on everything that we've been doing that kind of behind the scenes in the last many months for both of our businesses and how to maintain focus through something that's just so challenging. And I think that it seemed that pretty much snowballed into us putting this together, right, Pete? And kind of the genesis of the idea.
Absolutely. Just
yeah,
really kind of tapping into this stuff that you've done for so long, and then thinking about how it relates to now.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess, I'd start with giving just a little bit of background about where we were prior to March 15th, which was our day where we decided that we weren't comfortable operating any longer. I'm sure everyone has a little bit of PTSD or a lot of PTSD from that period, but that was the day that we decided, even though each of our cities hadn't quite made the call yet, that we weren't comfortable operating. And prior to that, we had a really fantastic run and build up of our company. We started Death & Co. in the East Village. almost 14 years ago now. And I wasn't originally a partner there, as Pete was saying at the top of this. I was a bartender. And I was working down the street at some places after college, and this bar opened. I fell in love with it. Sat in front of Joaquin Simo, if anyone has had the pleasure of doing so. And he kind of rocked my world and showed me a side of cocktails that were so exciting. They weren't just, references to old recipes, but there was something kind of new and innovative and youthful about it. And I vowed to work there. Eventually was able to elbow my way into the Sunday night swing shift, which back in that day was just working solo, and real brutal shift. But Dave and I, my business partner now, Dave Kaplan and I, quickly found out we had kind of a shared vision for our future and what we wanted to do. And that was to, grow this wonderful idea, this nucleus that was an energy that existed at Death & Co. in those early times, which was full of just kind of like forward thinking evolution of pushing the craft of cocktails and the experience around that craft to new levels. And it was kind of like coming to work every day, recreating a playbook, which was super fun to be a part of. But following that, we started a consulting company and eventually did our first project without really having any idea what the hell we were doing, down in Philadelphia, called the Franklin Morgan.
The only way to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fake it till you make it, I believe, ought to be written somewhere in stone in our company, at least a previous era of it.
For
but
sure.
It was crazy back then. But it was also, again, that same energy of pushing forward and kind of figuring it out as we went, in an industry that was, frankly, like, if we're all honest, back then, craft cocktail world was not necessarily mature. If somebody like myself was like 23 years old and was able to reach a level within it, goes to show you how much it had to grow, and really is an amazing reflection on where we're at in the industry today. So, after a while, Dave and I, we started this consulting company, and we had a vision to move to Los Angeles and open a bar. I went to Thailand for about 6 weeks moving, and the entire deal fell apart on my way out there. So basically landed without a project. And
what year is this?
This would be 2010, I think. Yep. That sounds about right. Yeah. So I previously had worked at Milk and Honey. As when I was young, I just 7 nights a week, I'd work anywhere. And they, would throw me some shifts here and there. And so I got to meet a guy named Eric Alperin, who owns the Varnish out there. And he gave me a gig right when I landed there. I got to work at the bar at the Varnish, and met Devon Tarby, if anyone doesn't know her. And really it was Devon coming on board to Proprietors, our consulting business, that really kind of catapulted and forced us to systemize and forced us to think kind of like introspectively about what we're doing and what we want to do. And that was definitely the beginning of us getting to do all these exciting projects, from, helping open restaurants in India, in Mumbai, in Russia, of doing stuff all over the US, from mom and pop consulting, somebody starting their first bar on through to big movie chains. And that then was starting to we were starting to feel pretty confident in that skill set. And then somebody approached us in Denver, and we were able to open Death & Co. Denver there in the Ramble Hotel, in collaboration with the hotel owner, a guy named Ryan Diggins, who we just really had a strong connection with. And right about that time, Dave, my business partner, he's very much a visionary kind of guy. He thinks big picture, long term, sees the opportunity where many of us don't. And he got us to focus on raising some money. And we were able to successfully and very publicly raise money on a platform called Seed Invest, to really set a foundation for our growth. And that got us to really put together and assemble a team on a national level to work with and kind of find opportunity for growth. And the first kind of tangible result of that was Death & Co. LA, which took about 2 years to build, and maybe 4 or 5 years after we signed the lease, and it opened just before this wonderful
Nailed it.
pandemic.
Nailed the timing.
Yeah, just great. I highly recommend spending a lot of money opening a bar and then not be able to operate it in order to, sustain it. That's just not that cool.
Yeah.
So,
tough. Right.
yeah, it was a little rough, but altogether, prior to March 15th, we saw this, we had the team together. We had 3 venues that were, even Death & Co. LA was starting to really kind of hit a stride, even those early months with anyone who's opened a bar knows it's really tough to find momentum in those early days. And then we, had this feeling that the world was kind of our oyster, and we were going to push for it and really, hit the ground running as much as we possibly could. And then, that day came and we had to make the call. And I'm sure a lot of other people felt it, but it was definitely crisis management. Shutting down the businesses, having to lay off at first the bulk of all hourly employees, and then shortly after most of the management team. But we were able to find a way to kind of, cinch down into a core group of people and be able to find focus. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is that moment from March 15th until today, and what we've done and what we've been able to do and how we've been able to find focus and really express creativity in a way that I never expected before. As somebody who came from a creative background and certainly within cocktails was able to express that in really fun ways throughout my career. This was a whole new type of creativity that I don't know if I was prepared for, but thanks to this kind of group of core people in our company, we were able to do it. And I think, before I kind of get into the details of it, I think it's important to acknowledge that none of this was easy and none of it was a whole lot of fun. But I think at the other end, there is silver linings in the challenges that we've all gone through in the last few months. And mostly that's kind of what I want to share with you, is what I think some of those silver linings are.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess a few things before you jump in from my side.
Yeah.
One is, what I've always admired about you guys is the iterative nature of the way in which you work through, things. You try things, you build on them. It's not just about, hey, we're going to do this, that's what we're doing. You're always building and trying, and you can see it from the outside as somebody who deals with a number of people at a bar, restaurant, hotel level. I know Kaplan pretty well. Share a lot of kind of thought processes maybe that are similar, even though I'm in a different line. And then I guess the other thing is, with regard to the statement on March on, like, totally feel that. Really interesting. We're sitting here on a live stream on this Tiki platform that we thought we'd never do anything but a series of industry focused handful of days together, because that's what it was about. So there is an element of, it's a creativity on a different level. It's not creativity in the common sense. It's not particularly enjoyable most of the way, but I think there's a lot of value to be had out of it if you can approach it the right way. So I'm definitely excited to hear how you guys were thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, the ability to be nimble in any business or line of work is super important, but boy, have we learned that lesson in the last few months, right? Like, every time you think what's about to happen,
right.
It really, changes. And you're right, like, we definitely pride ourselves on being nimble and iterative, which is to say, that idea I mentioned of Death & Co. that was so appealing to me in those early days, that energy that was almost unexplainable. It was ephemeral energy in the air. To me, always spoke to that place not being the four walls, that there was something outside of there, or there was something about that could be expressed in different places. And that was really the excited energy I felt as we were, having Denver open. And it's a vastly different space. If anyone doesn't know it, Google it. It has lots of windows and it's huge, versus New York's tiny little dark bar. And LA is something else entirely on its own, but that there's continuity that threads between all of them. That's really important to us.
Cool.
And I think kind of at the core of that is something Dave and I were talking about this not long ago, and it's really, community. And we, that word, I feel like it's tossed around so much, that community is our most important thing. But, I think we've defined it in a way that really applies to our work, which is, our community is first and foremost our team. And we've really pivoted, or not pivoted, we've leaned in hard to that in trying to build a positive culture and a team that really connects more than just the job duties that they have. And from that team, our community then spreads to our guests. And then from there to our neighborhood and our city, and then, to our industry beyond that on kind of a global level. And so, when March 15th hit, and Dave said this to me, and I found it really powerful. It was like, we of course were having a lot of reflective conversations in those early days, trying to understand how we were feeling about all of it and how we were going to find our way through. And, he said, it's really hard for us to find that focus when the many layers of that we don't have an actual day-to-day connection to anymore. Our staff is gone, our guests aren't there. And, we are physically cut off from our cities, and our industry, we barely can kind of grasp. And so, we took that kind of thought process and that understanding of the things that are most important to us, which is, as we define it, as our community, and those kind of layers and those gradations. And we took a moment in this kind of crisis and turned inward. So, for us, there were kind of three important points of turning inward as a company and as individuals, which was, first trying to maintain that connection to those various levels of people, providing support and resources, and then transparency. And so, maintaining the connection is really challenging when you don't have a day-to-day, you're not physically operating these places and you can't actually talk to your staff. But, I will sing the praises of it forever, but I'm very, very happy that a few years ago, we started instituting Slack within our entire company. And it became, by a regimented process, the only way in which the staff communicated, both about work stuff as well as a lot of, allowed areas for personal kind of engagement and for the community aspect of our team to express itself. And that was an incredibly powerful platform for us to maintain connection. Because I firmly believe that those of us operators out there that are able to maintain a connection to their team and to keep some of the culture that was built up before, and for us that felt like a pretty solid one, you're able to do that, then you're going to be so much stronger at the other end of this. Just think of the hours and hours and hours that you've put into training people and building the culture. And so to have that connection was really, really important to us. Maintaining, connection to our guests was a lot more challenging. We couldn't serve them alcohol. And for us, we did the analysis on, those early days of just to go without any sort of service. And one, we didn't feel personally very safe about asking our team to come in and expose themselves to contact with people in those early stages when a lot of us had no idea. The world didn't really know how this thing was spreading and what the realities of safety were. And it wasn't financially viable. And while we had a little bit of money in the bank, there was no runway there to really play with. And the whiplash effect was so significant for so many people I saw who were trying to get it going, and it being a great community relation, but it not being viable. So we instead, tried to leverage more of what has been successful for us in the past. And we're so lucky that we have a really strong, say, Instagram account. And so we started pivoting a little bit how we could connect with those guests through that, being a little bit more educational, providing more for people who are stuck at home, as well as our community too. And so you see it kind of spreading from there. And then support and resources, within our Slack, we started instituting in an effort to maintain connection, a daily newsletter where one of the leaders of the company, myself, Dave, our director of ops, Mike, Shane, beverage director, Tyson, Bueller, our culinary director, Wes Hamilton, or Devon Tarby would, give an overview of where we're at tell them how we're doing. This part of the transparency piece of it. It's not only what we have been before and have been for a long time with our teams is open book. We share our numbers, tell them exactly what we're doing and where we think we need to go. But we kind of pivoted to be more open heart and sharing with people how we're doing and inviting them to, interact with us. But through that process also, trying to consolidate in each given city, there were very specific resources that people could tap, be it, the USBG funds, be it other opportunities to make cash that people weren't able to through initiatives like this, where people can send them Venmos. And also provide mental health services, and really, frankly, try to stretch every dollar that we had.